Hello, my name is Arcenas with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. I'm interviewing today with
JoAnn Almonte. Today is July 11th, 2023. We are at the Pensacola Public Library. Can you introduce yourself and spell your name, please?
My name is Anna Grace Hunter.
Oh, and spell your name, please.
And spell it?
Yes.
Capital A-N-N-I-E, capital G-R-A-C-E, capital H-U-N-T-E-R.
Thank you. And when and where were you born?
I was born in Pensacola, Florida.
All right. What going on with your early life? What were your parents' names? What did they do when you were a child for work?
For work, I was raised by a single parent, and she was a domestic worker.
All right. And where did they grow up?
My mother was from Snow Hill, Alabama.
Did you have any siblings growing up?
Yes, I do. I have two brothers and one sister. I'm the oldest.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I grew up, like I say, with one parent, and mostly I was a child who was mostly off to herself. I was very, very, very quiet. Didn't have many friends, and I participated mostly in church activities.
Oh, what type of church activities?
Well, I was a regular Sunday school attendee, and I became a member of, sang in the choir, served as president of various organizations.
Oh, could you elaborate on those organizations?
We had a department where there were Red Circle girls. We had afternoon services on Sunday, which was called BTU, Baptist Training Union. And I was affiliated, mostly, I'm a singer.
Oh, that's very interesting. So when you were growing up, were you ever aware of racism or anything like that as a child?
Indeed, I was, but for some reason, it was smooth. I guess I wasn't really into racism at the time because we were taught to grow up, that wasn't my parents did not teach us against other people, regardless of what race they were in.
So, what other community activities or organizations did you participate in? And were there any family traditions that you had growing up?
Like I say, I was very quiet. I didn't do a whole lot of social. It was most strictly with with my church and school activities.
All right.
When you say school activities, what school did you go to? What was school like for you?
Well, I started out in a school, nursery school. I was very young. Mother had to work, and I went to a Baptist nursery school, and I also attended Lily Jane Frazier School, which is an establishment on.
'Now, Alconese Street as of today.
Now, Alconese Street as of today. And I also attended Lily Jane Frazier School, which is an establishment on now Alconese Street as of today. after I left there, I went to Spencerville Elementary School. And my junior high school days was the old Booker T. Washington, located on Strong Street. From there, I went to the Booker T. Washington, that's located on Taha Drive.
All right, and what was it growing up with a single mother at that time, being the eldest of how many siblings you said? You had many younger
Three
siblings.
others beside me. Mother was very strict, of course, back in the 60s. We didn't have a whole lot to do, but she was a very good mother, and the reason I'm here today is because of how I was brought up.
And how did she bring you up? What kind of values did she raise you with, especially in the 60s in the United States? I mean, a lot was going on at the time.
Well, at that time, whatever grown-up adult came into your life, you had to obey them, regardless of she handled us. Whatever they told her, she made sure that we respected everybody. And she didn't believe in a whole lot of whipping and everything. She could talk to me because I was the quietest one.
And did you attend college?
Yes, I did.
What university?
To begin with, I started with Washington Junior College here. And when I graduated from the college here, I am a proud graduate of Bethune-Cookman University.
And what were those experiences like? What did you study when you were at those two universities?
Well, when I entered college here, I started out as majoring in business administration. For some reason, I got involved with education, and I changed my major after going 2 years here, and I graduated from Bethune-Cookman College with a BS degree in elementary education.
And what was your first job after leaving college? What's your work experience?
My first work experience was at Ransom Elementary School out in Cantonment. I worked there 1 year. Then because of the National Teachers Examination, missed the score by 1 point and had to relocate because of that. And I went to LaGrange, Georgia. I worked at East Depot Elementary for 2 years. And after the schools became segregated, I came back here. And I was hired at famous Scenic Heights Elementary School, where I retired there after 37 years.
And you mentioned after schools became segregated. What was that like for you, having to teach in segregated schools?
Honest to goodness, I had no problems whatsoever, because at that time, Scenic Heights had, the families was made up of mostly military people. And it was very easy, and in fact, the principal at that time was Evelyn Reeves, who is related to our mayor. And she was responsible for me coming back from Georgia to this. And I guess that's what made it so easy. And she was a very cordial and considerate principal. And it made my transition, the parents and everybody, I was treated. It was just like I was one of them.
Yeah, so you went to a lot of schools and you decided to become a teacher growing up. So what inspired you to pursue a life of education?
Well, in my church experience, I worked with most of the time with the children there. And it just, I really can't say, but I have no regrets. But I enjoyed it.
Wow. And what grades did you typically teach in elementary schools?
My first grade level was third grade, Then when I went to the Georgia system, I was placed in second grade. Came back to Pensacola, started in third grade, then went to second grade, and finally I was so good, as they say. My principal asked me what I consider first grade, which I enjoyed.
So you had a long tenure as a teacher. You said 37 years.
No, I have my total years were 40. I worked one in Ransom, two in Georgia system, and I came back here and did the 37
So did you?
at Scenic Heights.
Yes. Did you live through desegregation and Brown v. Board of Education, and what was it like living through that, if you did?
Yes, I did. In fact, during my high school days, I did oratorical speech on Brown versus education.
So what was that like? What was it like seeing the news of sort of the order to desegregate, and did it take effect immediately, or was it more of a slower process?
To me, it was slow, but yet and still, I don't guess I was just into it then because I was never taught, about racism, so everything just seemed calm and collective with me.
So what was your oratorium or speech like in high school, talking about?
It was a contest for Masonic organization, and I represented them in Jacksonville at the time. That's way, way back. I did come in third place.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
What were your peers' reactions like to Brown v. Board of Education?
I have no clue. We never discussed, things of that nature.
Could you tell us more about the organization that hosted that contest? What did they do in general? What was their mission?
They, at that time, they supported low-income families and provided rental, payments for lodging and stuff of that nature, food and stuff, whatever I guess the family asked for.
And could you spell out the name of that organization again? Could you say and spell the name of the organization?
All I remember, I tried to find some of this information. It's been quite some time ago, but I don't want to give you the wrong name of it. But all I remember was Omega Masonic Order. It wasn't Order of Eastern Star. I'm not sure.
No, that's all right. And like you said, they supported low-income families. So I remember when you were talking about your childhood, you mentioned you were quieter, you only really engaged yourself with church activities. When you were older, did you find yourself working more with civil rights activities? If so, what did you do?
I didn't do any of that. I'm sorry. I didn't. Like I say, I was to myself a whole lot. I wasn't an outgoing person. In fact, I didn't even attend my high school prom. And my mom had, a low income. I even gave her my money back for my graduation ring. So I'm really, really, really just, this is the biggest that I've ever done. You guys are good.
So do you have any particular memories that stand out from your days in education, whether that be going through elementary school, middle school, high school, college?
I was a good speller. I won several spelling bees back in the elementary days.
That's great. Are there any interesting stories that stand out from your time as a teacher?
My outstanding to me, I was known as a very good disciplinary person when it came to my students. And I never took a child to the office for nothing. I always handled whatever problem in the classroom. And appreciated the fact that my principal did have confidence enough in me for me to come back to Pensacola to work at her school. By the way, you probably have heard that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And how I entered Scenic Heights was because of my mother. But like I said, my mother worked for her, and she had the confidence that I would be beneficial. And like I said, with things going smoothly, it did work out for Scenic Heights. And I had a very, the faculty and everybody received me as not being black, but as one of them.
How did you meet the principal of Scenic High? Was that a friend of your mother's?
How did I meet the principal?
Mm-hmm.
My mother did domestic work for the principal and her sister-in-law, Jim Reeves and Evelyn Reeves and Goldie and all of them. That's what made me come back. And in fact, the whole family of them had to have confidence in me to recommend me to be at that particular school.
Does any particular faculty or student stand up in any of your times teaching at elementary schools?
Yes. I have a student right now that I taught at Scenic Heights that is the assistant superintendent at the church that I belong. And I've had former students to contact me and about their experiences as their teacher. But what is mostly thing that I focus on is the young boy that was transferred from another school to Scenic Heights. And he was considered as a very, very child that caused a whole lot of trouble, which had a cumulative of just really information that I didn't go along with, because you can't teach a child from what his experience is from a previous teacher. And he was a character, and I'll never forget him. And I was the type of person that I did not rely on information. I had to see the child, work with the child for myself. And I worked with that child. And today I have a $2 bill in a frame that he gave me. His grandmother would call and say, I cannot do anything with it. I cannot do anything with it. And I would tell her, don't worry about it, it's in my hand. And that is the most outstanding, because every time I look at it, it just brings back memory. Suppose he had been labeled by me. He wouldn't, and he's no longer in this vicinity, but that does something to me. And I appreciate the fact that I was in his life for him to change.
Do you know what he eventually grew up to be?
No, I don't.
So what does it feel like having older students contact you and telling you about their experience?
Feels like a queen. Feels like a queen. And especially to see, like I was mentioning before, about the young man that's superintendent at the church that I'm affiliated with, to be my teacher in Sunday school. So you can't help from the have some joyous feeling behind that. And if you didn't ask me my birthday, this time next Tuesday, I will be 80 years old.
Wow.
And I have a lot to be thankful for. And I do try to encourage people. I don't get out and go around, like I used to. But I just appreciate seeing young people now getting an education, because it takes an education. I don't care who you are. And in the long run, it would be beneficial to you.
Are you recognized in town a lot?
No, I don't go anywhere. I really don't go anywhere. This is why this is surprising to me, because of the fact she is one of the people that recommended, because really I was very, very hesitant, because like I said, when I went to see McKnight, that was 68, 69, the year 68, 69. And I was the first black teacher there.
So what was it like being the first black teacher teaching?
Like I said, everything was, I give credit to God, because everything went so smoothly. I have no regrets. I enjoyed it while I was there. I really didn't want to retire, but I had to, I needed to come off and we encourage people to get an education. And like I say, my age has come. Why encourage people to get an education and you still at 70, 80 years old, won't move out to let a young person come in? So how are you going to progress? Because things have changed. The discipline that I did back then, you can't do that now. But like I say, my goals that I asked for have been completed. And I'm satisfied.
So over your long career as a teacher, have you noticed a shift in students over the decades?
Have noticed what?
Any changes, any shifts? Like have their attitudes changed?
Oh, surely. Because in my days, a child would not talk back to a teacher. You could discipline a child. During my time, you could, spank them? And you wouldn't have to worry about the parent when the child goes home and says, well, my teacher did this or did that. The parent come back with a different attitude. It's a great difference. And some children you just can't talk to, putting them in the corner of time out. They love time out because they do it. But things have to change. And if you can't go along with the change, I don't think you should be in the field of teaching.
So other than attitudes, how else have students changed over the decades in your perspective?
Dress.
Could you elaborate?
Huh?
Could you elaborate?
Well, I never was the one that wore short skirts. Now, when I started teaching, we were not even allowed to wear pants at all, for no reason. But, and I was approached about wearing pants at Scenic Heights by one of the principals. And I truly believe I'm responsible for that changing. And I'll tell you why. I was in my classroom one time and the principal came in and I had on pants. And he called me and asked me, and why did I have my pants on? And I was like this. I had first grade children. First grade children are so tall. And I told him the reason why I had pants on is that I want to be with my children. I was sitting on the floor. I said, I cannot sit on the floor in a dress and play with the children. And I feel comfortable with pants on. And that was changed.
Wow, that's great. Did you ever have any children of your own?
I have one daughter, and she attended school with me at City Heights.
Oh, were you ever married?
Yes, I was. Didn't work, but I was.
Where did you meet him?
At my church.
And what was that like, meeting someone at your church and then marrying them?
Well, I don't know. It was just clicked at that moment, but unclicked somewhere down the line. But he was a member. He was a member of the church that I was attending at the time.
And so how did going to church affect your view on life? So you mentioned doing church activities when you were young and being a consistent member.
Well, like I say, that's all I did. I went to church. I was in church from sunup to sundown. That was every Sunday. I did not miss church.
Do you think it affected you in any way, like your views on life or
Oh,
teaching?
it has. I believe that is why I feel that I was successful in life. Because of my, not attendance, but going and being able to be mentored by some of the elder people. And my life then was, I didn't be with people of my age. There was always somebody that was older than me. In fact, I think they had a great part in being what they were, because I was not the type of person, I wasn't outgoing at all. And it's just the way I was. I don't regret it, but that's just the way I was.
And at church, what kind of values did you learn from the church service?
Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you.
Do you find that's one of the more valuable lessons that you apply throughout your life, that you teach your daughter, for example, or taught your daughter, rather?
My daughter was much more outgoing than me, but she did listen to me. In fact, she became one of the pianists for we were singers, we were musically inclined. She played for different churches in Pensacola. And in fact, she kind of followed my path. She graduated from the same college that I graduated from. My church experience was with one of the pastors that I joined the church when I was working in LaGrange, Georgia. We just bypassed each other. And they took me into their fold and taught me as one of their children. So I've always had a very religious background. And I've always tried to treat everybody right. If I do something to you, I have no hesitance about coming and apologizing if I'm wrong.
All right, and you mentioned that your daughter played piano for the church. Did your mom do anything musical, your grandmother?
Mother was mother. My mom did not get, I think the highest education she got was 3rd grade. And she was somewhat not affiliated. I was just a person that led my mom back into church at the time because she wasn't going. She always saw the children going, but she did not have the type of, I guess, experience that, I was, going through as a child. But in spite of, she did whatever was best for the family.
Going back to the rest of your family, what did your husband do for a living?
At that time, he was the head chef of Morrison's Cafeteria, which became Piccadilly.
All right, and how long did he work there for?
He retired there over, I guess, 50 some odd years at the most.
All right, wow. You mentioned you have siblings. What do they do?
My sister was an employee at, you probably heard, Gulf Power at the time. My brothers, okay, one of them had worked for Pensacola News Journal, and both of them served in the Vietnamese War.
And what was it like having two brothers that went off to the Vietnam War? I mean, how was it when they came back too?
Well, I guess it was okay because at that time I was in school and they were out serving the country, and they got back safely. That was the main part.
All right, and was there any talk about the war before they left?
No.
And not after either?
Pardon?
And did they speak about the war after either?
No. We never sat down and had. We weren't the type of, we didn't do a whole lot of discussing, just daily routine stuff we did.
And you mentioned moving a lot for your job. What was it like to move to Georgia and then Pensacola again and various other places?
Well, it was all right, as long as I was getting hired for a job. Like I said, the only reason I left Pensacola because of the exam. And fortunately, when I left Pensacola, I was recommended by the assistant principal, who was one of my church members at the time. Sister had to be relocated, and she found me a job in. She was going to West Point, but her principal's wife was working at the school in LaGrange, Georgia, and that principal hired me. But after segregation came about and Mrs. Reeves wanted me back, I was anticipating going on to Atlanta, but I came back home. Mama was glad because, in fact, I am the oldest one out of the four of us that has gotten a college education. My sister went to school, but PJC, but she didn't she just only got an associate degree.
And what did she get that degree in?
I think it was management.
And when you left for Pensacola, left from Pensacola and then returned to Pensacola, was there anything that you noticed that was different about the place that you had lived in prior?
Yes, it was. It was just like no place like home, I guess. And I was still young. Because see, when I graduated from high school, I didn't turn 16 until that summer. So I was actually ahead of myself.
So over the years teaching, as the first black teacher in Scenic Heights, did it eventually become more racially diverse in your time?
Yes, it did. I only worked at Scenic Heights 1 year before it was 6 other black teachers that were hired because the schools, some of the schools in the city were closing. And they all deceased now.
Did any attitudes towards race, either among faculty or students, change over your years
It
teaching?
never changed. In fact, they some of the teachers came and they were telling me, say, you did a good job of making a way for the other. Nothing, everything was just smooth. We were never talked about or anything, but it did. It was real smooth considering, you know, how things were at that time. And some of the other schools were having so much conflict with black people going into all white schools.
Do you have any reasons why, looking back, it was so smooth?
I guess it's the way we entered that made, you know, the difference. We didn't have any discouraging remarks between each other, or everybody just treated everybody fairly. That's the way I looked at it. Because, I mean, it could have been, you know, big issues. I have no doubts that we didn't have problems, but if there were any severe problems, they were not brought up by the faculty, nor the community at that time. So that made a big, big difference.
And you mentioned that your school, Scenic Heights, ended up having more black teachers because other schools closed. Do you know why those schools closed?
I think it was because of the enrollments, and they were older schools. Because I know of at least 2 or 3 that had closed. But that's the reason I could think of that they closed. It wasn't because of, you know, any kind of disturbances or thing going on.
All right, and you mentioned that while your school didn't have any conflict between racial groups, that other places did have those conflicts. Do you remember any of those specific places and things that you heard about them?
No, not really. But I don't think the communication was as, you know, what it should have been. Other than that, because, like I say, I wasn't the type of person that go around and trying to see, you know, what was happening here and what was happening there. But
Yes. Do you have any thoughts on being a teacher, or any overview thoughts of your whole experience?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know, I've been with things being like they are, and I think I'm somewhat and can be a very sensitive person. If I had it to do, in the way some of the things have gone on with education today, I don't think I feel comfortable going back into it. You have, the parents are different, the children are different, and it's not that they are not disciplined like they used. I can handle any child that may not learn 1 + 1 = 2, but you got to have that respect. They need to listen. And it all stems from the home, and the parents are not as cautious about disciplining their children these days because they want to be their friends. And you can't be their friends and a mother too and get out and do what they do. You got to hold that background is that you are the parent and they are not the parent. You have small children. I've had them in my class as 5 and 6 years old, hollering back at the parent. And I was strict believer when my students came in my door every morning. It was good morning, Miss Moore, at that time. Good morning. You got children walking through your house that won't even speak to you for days. Small children. You got to be the parent and tell them what to do. And you can't believe everything that a child tell you. I used to have my parents tell, my child does not lie. Yes, they do. And you are lying for them. You cannot do that. And once these little bitty children, when they are in control, they think they are actually in control of it. And it's sad to see how some of these small children are manipulating their parents now. My own tried it, I know it. When she would tell me, Mama so-and-so, but I'm your mama. Mom, that child has belonged to that lady. You don't come in here telling me what this child is doing. You can't give in to them. And you got to put your foot down and you got to stick with it. Children should be children. And I don't think Anna Hunter would fit in the classroom these days because I'm still in some of the things in the, they're still, some of those old remedies are good for nowadays.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Before we wrap up the interview, is there anything you'd like to say that we haven't talked about?
I'd like to thank you all for being patient with me.
Thank you.
Because I just couldn't imagine. I said, well, I don't have anything written down. Whatever comes out, it comes out. And whatever they need to edit or whatever. But I feel like I owe Miss Prowler. And when she said, they're going to be students, I said, I can't help who they're going to be. I just want to represent because you have the faith in me. And it just, it does something. Because of the fact, and I wish all of you the best in your, whatever you're trying to accomplish and continue to do what you're doing.
Of course, thank you so much.
play the middle or the top? Oh.
That was nice.